Yo, what's up, guys? This is Kayak Mike. This video is coming out right before April, right at the end of March. I'm not sure if it's going to post the 30th or 31st of March. But I'm just going to go over a couple quick reasons why some fish got disqualified this month. If your fish are up here, I'm not picking on you, but the best way for me to educate the entire scene as a whole is to use real life examples of things that were disqualified and explain why. So real quick, the month long right here, the OCT month long and the Scioto River event are the only two events that allow non-musky bumpers. If you are in the national trail or the regional tournament, you have to use a musky bumper. I'll get to that later in the tournament, but remember that because if you're fishing in multiple events and you're like, for instance, me, for example, I'm in the month long and the regional, but the problem is I used my catch board and I submitted it to every event that I was in. I had to DQ all my fish from the regional because I used the catch board. That's my fault. And I'm not above the rules, so I have to treat everyone fairly and everyone equal, and that's what I do. So rest of the video are going to be specific examples, and if one of your fish are on here, I am not picking on you. It's the best way to educate the scene is to use real life examples. So moving on. So this fish right here was not disqualified in its current tournament. However, the angler who caught this was in multiple tournaments, and he only has one identifier in the photo. You can double dip, triple dip, quadruple dip. You can submit one fish to 17 tournaments. If you're in 17 tournaments, that's fine. But you have to make sure you have every single identifier in that single photo. So he only had one identifier in this photo, so this was only a legal submission in one event. The other event, the identifier was NOC, so I had to reject this fish and all of his other fish that he submitted without the NOC identifier. Lack of identifier is one of those black and white rules where there's there's nothing I can do to help you out there in that case. I am sorry. That's a full DQ, whether it's your first day or your 10,000th day in the scene. All right, moving on. This one right here. In 2023, all channels, all blues have to be measured left side down, right side. I'm so sorry. Have to be measured right side down, left side up. Every channel, every blue, no matter what you measure them on, has to be measured right side down, left side up. So this was disqualified because it was measured on its belly. Every event that I host, there's no exception to this rule. Uh, the only fish that can be measured on its belly is a flathead, and we actually encourage you to measure flatheads on their belly. But other than that, channels and blues, right side down, left eye up, period, every single scene that I host. This guy right here goes to what I just said. This guy is left side down, right side up. And again, that's one of those black and white rules. No identifier, incorrect orientation. There's nothing I can do to help with that because there has to be consistency. There has to be consistency with how we measure the channels and the blues because there's too many tournaments going on where I can't make an exception one place and then not make the exception to 17 other anglers who made the same mistake. So remember, right side down, left eye up, no matter what. This is why we always tell people get the left-handed orientation musky bumper board. This is the right-hand orientation musky bumper board, so people will naturally want to put the back of the fish up. All he had to do to make this a legal photo was just flip the fish on its other side. You could use a right-hand orientation board, that's fine, but people sometimes forget that they can't be putting the back of the fish up against that if they have the right-hand side board. So remember, channels and blues, right side down, left eye up. Moving on, this one. This is the slot tournament. If you are in a slot tournament, you need to be trying to achieve max length. So this tail fin, if you have a fish that's close to a perfect slot fish, this tail fin cannot be spread. So this tail fin is too spread. Now, what I'm not saying this fish would have broke 30 inches if the tail was straight. What I am saying is our part of our criteria is that back tail fin has to be straight or as straight as you can get it. It doesn't necessarily have to be pinched, but you have to make it clear that it's a straight line. This is spread, So it's a 29.75 fish. Our slot limit's 30. This was submitted as a perfect fish. I have to deny this because you see this curvature right here. Now, if this fish came to right here, made a little bump and went straight and stopped at that 29.75, perfect submission. However, since this tail fin spread, I did have to DQ this fish in the slot. And that doesn't go just for the month-long slot that OCT hosts. Any event that we host, if there's a slot, this tail fin cannot be spread. Same angler, I'm going to give him props though in this one. He has 95% of his submissions were submitted perfect. That was the only one that he messed up. So this is a perfect slot submission fish. So if you go from the nose all the way down, like this is about as there's curvature in every single catfish. It's just gonna happen. Sometimes they end up a little catty corner. Sometimes they end up, straight like this. This comes up a little bit. You're never gonna get a perfectly straight line, but it has to be clear. That is, it's as straight as you can get it. Tail fin straight. 29 points. It's clearly touching 29.75. Boom. And our rule is upper tail has to be going straight. This clearly looks like it's achieving max length. Clearly bumped. You have the identifier. This right here, if anybody wants to take a screenshot of what a perfect slot fish measurement looks like, this is the perfect slot fish. This was not DQ'd, by the way. I'm showing this one to show how to do a perfect one. The previous one was disqualified. This is me. So the identifier for the month long. So this is legal in the month long, but you see this denied word right here. That's because it's in the regional event, and the regional does not allow catchboard. And the reason I have you behind the scenes here with me, this is my submission, so I'll show you whatever I want from my submission. I don't care. But yeah, my deny note. This event needs a musky bumper. So this is a legal fish in the month-long slot for myself. It's not a legal fish in the regional. Regional is musky bumper only, so I had to DQ this from myself. I had to DQ every single fish that I submitted to the regional because I was not using the correct board. And then last but not least, oh yeah, I had this up. Those were just some examples of some disqualifications from this past month. I'm going to try and do this once a month for the first few months just so, any new anglers can come in and just be like, okay. But, our rules are pretty simple. Let me go to Nick and Jack, and let's just go to, Ryan Bort's submission here. Boom. Right side is down. Left eye is up. There's our identifier. I can clearly see where it's measured to. I can see the whole fish. Like, this is a perfect submission. Like, there's nothing wrong with this submission. Let me go to another submission. JJ, let's go to your JJ's. This is 32.25. Clearly bumped. Right side down, left eye up. There's his identifier. 32.25. Yes, that's clearly 32.25. So, perfect submission. That's all our rules are, guys. Those other disqualifications, yes, I personally have to know all the ticky-tacky rules, but it's that simple. Right side down, left eye up, have your identifier in the photo. And if it's a flathead, on their belly, flatten their tail. The only event that gets slightly tricky is the slot event. And let me go back to the slot event really quick. And I'll go to one of my fish, because I just so happen to have a perfect fish as well. We'll do my perfect submission. So there's my identifier, NOC. I clearly forgot my identifier. Remember, every event has their own unique identifier. Our month longs typically have the identical identifier, so anglers don't have to remember 6, 7, 8 different identifiers every single month, depending on how many events that they're fishing. But it's clearly bumped, right side down, left eye up, as straight as I could get it. I really had to force it out to get to that perfect score. It's clearly not going to touch 30 at any point in time. I have my identifier, and it's that simple. Right side down, left eye up, achieve max length, or make it appear as you achieve max length. And the best way to do that is to keep that top fin as straight as possible and have your identifier in the picture. That's really all the rules are. We have all those other subset rules because there has to be uniformity across this for competition reasons. But yeah, those are some tips and tricks for the upcoming months. Best of luck the rest of this month, anglers, and the upcoming months.